Well, I thought I was ready to throw this freshly rebuilt 570 engine in the Sportsman, but we're not quite there yet. Now, it's certainly not because the engine is not ready to go in. This is ready to be installed. But if we come on over to the Wheeler, we got some stuff to do besides the engine. We got to do... The front diff is leaking here, so we got to at least install a new seal in there, possibly new bearings. This can be done with the engine installed. I mean, we could pull everything out of there, but it's going to be a lot easier to do it right now while the engine's out, so we might as well tackle that right now. I'm going to come on over here, unbolt this drive shaft, pull this bolt out here. Now, I'm not sure if we can get this drive shaft out by just pulling it back, if there's enough room. Most of the time, you got to unbolt the diff and slide it forward to get your drive shaft out. But it's very easy to get to right now, so why not just pull it and see what we can do. This throttle body out of the way. That looks like as far as it's going to go. We're definitely going to have to unbolt the diff, which is fine, as there's only like 4 bolts holding it. These should be 15 millimeter. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now we should be able to slide this differential ahead just enough to get this out. There we go. It's a tight fit, but it's manageable. So surprisingly, the U-joints are good on this thing. Nice and tight. The first thing I'm going to do is come in here and remove the seal. Alright, let's see if we can get this out here. There we go. There we go. Put that onto there. Alright, so I'm going to replace the bearings on this right here. So I get a new bearing and seal kit right here. Boss bearings. First thing you gotta do is pull the retaining clip. This will have to go up one. There we go. There's that one. Open up our new bearing. New bearing installed. Now we can come back over here, grab our retaining clip. Slide that on down there. Beautiful. And then this is going to go in the differential. We'll just throw it in here, and we should be able to push it right in. And then we can throw our seal on afterwards. Make sure she fits good. So if we're going to leak, we're going to leak because this is a little worn here. Alright, we'll clean out all this junk on this case. There we go. Now the clip can go back on. throw a little bit of grease on that seal first. Now we can just go around this, slowly tap it in. Make sure it's in there nice and even, just like that. Okay, we can go ahead and throw this drive shaft back on. You just gotta make sure your splines line up so that your bolt can go through. Looks like we're off a little bit. I think we might be off. Yeah, we are. That's better. I'll make sure our bolt goes right through before we bolt down that differential. Which looks good. There it is. We'll tighten that down when we get this diff lined up. Definitely want to put Loctite on these bolts. Get one started and another. And the last one, perfect. Come over here and tighten this drive shaft bolt up. Alright, I would say now is probably a good time to throw this engine in. Sneak her in here just like that. And make sure I Loctite all my engine mounting bolts. Now we can slide this engine on back into its resting place. There's that one. Go ahead and get these mounts lined up. Alright, up you go. And go ahead and get this side on here as well. Go ahead and snug everything up. Alright, snug these up. And we'll go ahead and tape this up so it doesn't look quite so bad. The wires are all good, but the sheathing has seen better days. Throw the starter in now. I'm going to go ahead and get some oil in this thing, get it soaking while I work on everything else. I like to pre-fill my filters. A little oil in the gasket. Now we can go ahead and spin her on. Dipstick out of there. Funnel. And 2 quarts of PS4. There's that. Certainly start hooking up all our coolant hoses, our electronics, all that good stuff. Because I want to hear this thing fire up soon. The throttle body definitely needs a very good cleaning before I go ahead and install that, so I'm going to clean that out now. That's looking better in there. hose. Get the throttle body in there. Sensor. Moving on to the exhaust. Put a new copper seal in there. The exhaust back on there. Get some coolant in this monster. Let's get a fuel tank on this thing. Is that rubbed up so much? It's just been one thing after another with this Sportsman 570. Ugh. So the reason why it was revving up was the throttle cable was a little too short. I had to fix that. I tried adjusting this as much as I could. I could not get it to go. It pulled out of here, so I had to cut it down a little bit, but it's working good now. This was also sticking, so it was shutting it off because the safety mechanism wasn't working right. This had that blue aluminum throttle, but it was moving so rough. I thought it was the throttle cable because the throttle cable was too tight. Like I said, that was what was causing the revving, but it needed the actual throttle piece as well. So I went and stole that off my Sportsman 550. But just one thing after another. There's been multiple other things as well, but anyways, let's fire this thing up. All right, parking brake is on. I don't know if you can see that. I saw it when I was in the garage. That is dust. Oh, it smells like you just went through a mud hole or something. This thing definitely got drowned. Oh, climb up on this beast. That's ridiculous. That is not smoke, that is literally dust. It's probably gonna be blowing that out for a while. But she's running, that engine sounds good. The clutch is a little noisy. I never did end up rebuilding that clutch. I should have, but I didn't have time. I'm not gonna have time to do these portals today because I gotta deliver this thing today. But we're gonna work on the brakes, get the brakes working because it has no brakes right now. As you can see, I had to run all new snorkels. I still gotta run one more because I ran out of tubing. I'll have to go to town and get some more. I drained out the front diff a while ago. First thing, we're gonna need a drain pan. So for this job, we're gonna need an 8mm Allen head with a ratchet, or just a standalone 8mm wrench will work. I prefer the ratchet, it's a lot faster. We'll come on down here. Now your guys' normal Sportsman 570s are probably not gonna be on 34-inch Assassinator tires and have portals on them, so this thing is a monster. But luckily for me, this one does, so it's got all kinds of clearance. What I like to do is I like to come down here, get rid of all the dirt that's in the way. Then we'll open up that hole. You don't want to strip this out. It kind of looks like somebody already stripped it once. We'll see if we can get onto there, but I like to clean the hole out, get all the mud out of there. Go ahead and put our up in there. Light tap. Good, she broke free. We're gonna loosen it up until I can move it by hand. We go ahead and put our drain pan under there. And we'll check that oil out. Definitely some shavings on that magnet, to be expected. You can see from this plug, like I said, there's definitely some magnetic shavings. We want to just check that, make sure there's no big chunks. It's mainly just metal oil sludge, which is pretty normal. I mean, as long as you don't see any big chunks on there or any big shavings, you should be fine. We'll go ahead and reinstall this. Pretty simple to do. Make sure we don't get any dirt up in there. Now, a very important thing to remember is not to over torque that drain bolt. So this is a 2016 Polaris Sportsman 570. It calls for 11 foot-pounds. We're going to set our torque wrench to 11 foot-pounds, which this is an inch, so you just got to convert. And we'll just come on down here. And that's it. Now, one reason I like to use a clean, empty drain pan is to check the condition of the oil, obviously. So it's pretty black, but there's no debris or anything that I could see in there. What I like to do is I like to pour it in a measuring cup to see how much oil was actually in there. This machine requires 9 ounces. It's not a lot of oil, but it's a lot more than what come out of there. I'm going to let this drain for a minute, get it all out, see what we were at. Alright, so we got just about everything out of the pan. There's just a little residual oil left in it. Let's check our measuring cup. Here's ounces. This is 16 up here. 9 is right there. We got about 4 ounces of oil in there. So less than half of what this thing calls for. It's not good, but at least it had some oil. I don't see too much signs of wear, so the bearing should be okay in there. I'm going to go ahead and refill it. Demand drive fluid. As you can see, pretty much clear, a little yellow tint, very thin. This only takes 9 ounces in the front diff. Alright, let's see what's going on with these brakes. It's a lot of rotating mass right there. Alright. Definitely some weight behind those. Alright, our brake pads are pretty much down to nothing. Check those out. They were kind of weird. I wonder if it's the way everything's set up here. Because there's a lot of pad left on the very inside. Actually, I'll pull them off and show you. Yeah. See, it doesn't use the whole pad. That's the problem. I'll loosen up the master cylinder here. We can push those calipers in. They don't make contact on the very end of the brake pad, so all this wears out and it leaves that. So there's not a lot that's actually, oh wow, those are pretty warped as well. Both of them are warped. So yeah, I don't know how great of a setup this is. Go ahead and put some new pads in here. I don't imagine they're gonna last too long. As I'm seeing how this is working, this is not the best design with, you know, not being able to use that whole brake pad, but it is what it is. At least you'll have some stopping power, because it has nothing right now. Wait until you see what's going on with the rear. Well, that's how she's gonna work for now. Like I said, I don't think they'll last long, but pretty heavy wheel and tire. I'm sure it's mainly just that rubber. Well, that's better than it was. And same way over here. I think this side's actually worse. About the same, I guess. Right down to steel on the bottom side of them. All right. Nice. Oh yeah, I said I was going to tell you about the rear brakes. Well, there is no rear brakes at all. This is for the rear brake caliper. There's just no brakes on here. I don't know if it's meant to have it. Obviously, this machine's meant to have them, but I don't know if it's set up with these portals to put a caliper on. I'm not sure, but I know we got discs on there, just no calipers. Alright, I know quite a few of you have been wondering if this 570 can even move with these 34-inch Assassinator tires. And we're finally about to find out. Now this thing does have GDP portals, which is a gear reduction, so that should certainly help her out. Oh, jump up on there. Let's forget about that park and brake. High range. I don't know, what do you think? Will she wheelie? That's high range. This thing's definitely geared pretty low. Alright, low range. Those front tires might have come off the ground. Oh, they definitely came off the ground. That surprises me. Man, does this thing handle bad though. Barely turn it. I don't know if the power steering's working or maybe it just doesn't seem like it. Well, there we go. That 570 can definitely push those tires with that gear reduction in it. This thing can go home. I'm not gonna miss it. I gotta see if it fits in my truck though. Well, it fits. Well, just because I said I didn't want to see that thing again, guess what? It's the next day. I didn't bring this all the way to him. He's like almost 3 hours away from me one way. He met me about halfway, so I drove it there last night. Met up with him. It run and drove fine. One thing I did not check, he got it home. He said, hey man, the four-wheel drive's not working. and it was working when he dropped it off. I said, oh no. All I could think of was wire corroded, or also because I went and rerouted all those hoses. Maybe something came apart, got nicked, I don't know. Gonna check it out now, but yeah, so it's the next day now. I drove all the way down here 3 hours, just about 3 hours, and yeah, so let's see what's going on here. So the first thing I did was pulled the connector out. As you can see, pretty nasty, corroded. I'm hoping this is just a problem. Same thing, the terminal's pretty nasty. If we pull the actual switch out, oh man, now I gotta find the spring and the little, but yeah, anyways, definitely corroded. I'm thinking this is the problem. Okay, luckily they stayed right on the wheeler, so I did find them. That's good. Tried to come prepared to get some electronic cleaner, scuff pad, the electrical grease, get this all cleaned up now. You know, hopefully this is the problem. If so, it'll be a pretty simple problem, and that is what I wanted. He's going on a trip tomorrow, and they're planning on hitting the mud, so obviously he's gonna need four-wheel drive. Now, this has been sitting at my house for a few months now. I don't exactly know when, but definitely a few months. So, and this thing was brought to me muddy. I think he just got done a ride, so she's seen some water, and it sat around outside of my house. So sitting definitely doesn't do any good, especially when you're not, you know, using that switch back and forth. If it's got a little corrosion, it's gonna keep going and going. At least when you start using it, even if you got water in there, it'll kind of wear itself in and keep those contacts clean. That, I want to clean that off, even though that doesn't look too bad. And then I was in a hurry last night to get this to him, so I never even checked the four-wheel drive. I just want to make sure the engine was good and snorkels were good. But four-wheel drive is pretty important, especially for a machine like this. Alright, I'll start putting this back together. Be very careful, I don't want to lose this stuff. Alright, add a little de-electrical grease to this. Plug this in right here. Whew, man, it is hot. Well, let's go give her a whirl now. Two-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive. There we go. Whew. Well, we are working now. Look good, she works now. I'm headed home. Did also notice, I think we have a bad battery. So fire this up. She turns over a little slow. If we test the running voltage, it's 14.3, 14.4, so that's good. So it's charging good. But if we shut her down, even if we immediately check it, it's at 12.2. If we throw our battery tester on here, let's go ahead and try this. Battery test, AGM, SAE 220. Battery charged, yes. Bad, replaced, 12.15 volts. So we'll go ahead and throw this new battery in there for them. Same rating. Good charge. Alright, well now we should be good to go home. We got the new battery in there. here, she turned over a lot quicker. Boy, I am sweating, but so we're all done this. I know some of you guys like to know the price, you know, of the bills and stuff. We were at about $1,200 in parts on this. Hot rods, crank, Weisco piston, all new gaskets, seals, the front diff rebuild, so bearings, seal, and then all the new snorkel tubing. Ended up being, like I said, $1,200 for parts, and I charged him $1,000 in labor. If I would have counted all my time, it would have been more than that, but I think that's pretty fair. He ended up tossing me an extra $100 last night when I dropped it off, and I'm not charging for this today, so headed home.